Namaste.
Alright. Namaskar, good to see you.
Same here. Thank you so much for such a quick.
It was very spontaneous, you know. Normally things are happening, take some time, not in this case.
Wonderful. I think maybe it's the music connection. Yeah.
Yes, the way you were writing, I thought I have to answer.
How,
Personally, I usually don't answer really because there's too much, you know,
how
but
sweet.
this was very personal, so I thought yes, I do.
Thank you so much. Let's start with music itself. Why did you choose Winds of Change? Is it because of the lyrics, which is exceptional, I must say, and relevant for all times, I think.
Yes, it's true. You know, I chose this first because for me, I mean, being German and being, you know, I was very aware 30 years ago what happened when the wall came down,
Yeah.
and at this particular moment, when you know the leaders of the world were in Berlin celebrating this fall of the wall, there was a big stage for this event, and on this stage played the Scorpions. 30 years ago, and they composed the song not immediately for that, but for a trip to Moscow. But they performed it there. So for me and for my generation, Wind of Change is connected to that moment when the wall came down, and for a moment, a glimpse of hope was there in the world. This world will be a better world with no poverty, with no violence, no arms, and you know this kind of thing. So that's why I chose this. Particular song, and it's until today it is like a hymn of hope. And so if you transfer it to the day of now, it's at that time it was, oh thank God, this east-west confrontation is gone, no more Cold War and these kind of things. Now today I think I didn't want to politicize this thing, you know. Everyone, every individual in this country has its own worries and fears. So if you are in a COVID depression, then this gives you some kind of hope. You know, if the wall can come down, this situation can also be better. If you are in a poor situation or a migrant worker, you might think, okay, maybe the situation gets better for me. For everyone, in privately or professionally, it has a message of hope and of a better future. And I think this is what we need, especially these days.
Thank you so much. I would just like to introduce Director of Center for Soft Power, Srimati Vijay Lakshmi.
Oh, I have seen her.
Namaskar.
Shri Walter, I'll call him Shri. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I saw you there, but I couldn't figure out who this is. Now I know, okay, the director of the institute.
And Arunima is principal at NICE, which is, she will tell you, it's a new sister concern, and they are looking at cultural entrepreneurship.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is broadly to promote India's creative economy by boosting entrepreneurs, by giving them the adequate toolkits and the mentorship needed to build brands which are more self-sustaining by themselves. And they are rooted in Indian cultural practices and traditions. So how do we market our culture, basically, in simple words?
Yes. So from Ayurveda to yoga to music.
Yes. So we're focusing on 5 areas right now: wellness, which includes Ayurveda, yoga, food and beverage, because we need to go beyond chicken tikka masala and naan. So yeah, fashion and experiential tourism, and home decor and furnishing. So that will include our crafts sector largely.
Okay.
And
and you're based in Bangalore.
The team is based in Bangalore. I am based out of Jaipur right now, and partially Delhi. And another colleague of ours, Hari Kiran, he's the founder also. He's based out of Hyderabad. So we are basically all over the place.
Very good. I didn't know about this institute, about this organization, but now I understand better why you were approaching me, because I love Indian culture, and you know, so that's. Count me in as one of your staff members.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so nice of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, whatever I saw in the article in Times and also in your tweet, you are very much an ambassador for India too.
Exactly. I
So
should get two salaries, I guess.
yeah, what is it something about music, Walter, that makes humans sensitive to the other, and
You know,
you're
I
not a hardcore, hard wheeling dealing diplomat.
no.
So you.
Well, I think part of it is your own DNA, I guess, when you're born, and you know this better in India than we do in the West. But then it's the upbringing also, and I grew up in a modest surrounding, so not no protection. Okay, we push him to become a lawyer or something. And so and then I worked as a, first as musician, but then as taxi driver and truck driver, and then McDonald's, to keep me up floating. And then I traveled and I saw many countries on this planet, and I saw how privileged we are in the West to live this life, and we're still complaining about our situation. So you become modest all around. And then I became a lawyer because I wanted to change things and went into politics. But it's the whole package that, the fact that I'm sitting here as ambassador is not because I'm so wonderful personality. No, it is because I was lucky also. I could have failed in my bachelor. I could have, be under bad influences, bad friends or something. So it's just a matter of, um, different different luck and coincidence that I was born in a rich country, and the rickshaw puller at the railway station here is born in India. Now he has no chance to move up much, and I do have the chance there. So this makes me modest and humble. When I see this, I think it's not my how would I say, my marriage that I am where I am, and it's not his fault that he is there at a pulling the rickshaw. It's just life's cruelty sometimes, and so I want to change things in the world, and that makes me, not a typical diplomat, I guess. But even so, surviving in my job as diplomat, I had to be, uh, not hardcore as you said, but I had to be tough too. Sometimes I've been foreign secretary, the highest ranking diplomat in Germany. So, which means you have to know how to use the diplomatic toolbox without becoming hardcore. So, and I try to do that.
Yeah. It's a strange coincidence that you drive an ambassador and our Akka here, Vijay Lakshmi ji, drives a BMW. So, so what is it that, can, where does is this the same, logic of different countries and karma that, can you make the ambassador a BMW, which you're, which I
It would
think
be,
you,
it's a nice twist to it if it's the karma,
yeah.
it would be nice. No, I mean, it was much more trivial. I came here and I saw this car there, and it was gray and it was collecting dust in some garage here. And I said, wow, what a wonderful car. This is like when I was a little boy, I dreamed of cars. These were the real cars where you can really feel you're sitting in a car. And I said, what's happening? Oh, well, we don't use it. We had it here as a gift, and we use it for mail or something. I said, no, let's undust it. Let's paint it red, totally red. And at that moment, I had to present my credentials with the president of India. That's a very formal thing. So usually you would come with your, I have to start using Mercedes in the garage, of course. And of course, everyone was expecting me to go there with the flag there. And then I said, no, let's try to fix a flag on anti-ambi, or on ambi at that time.
Yeah.
And we fixed the flag, and this was the condition to go to the president. Otherwise, I couldn't have gone. And it fit there. And so I went with this flag to the president with this car. And then since then on, people become very fond of this car. All the Deliwalas, whenever they see the car, they know the car. It's out of my hands now. It's back to the Indian hands now, and that's why they call it anti-envy. You know, it's not only me; everyone calls it like that. And wherever I go, if I'm not with Auntie Envy because she's in the garage or something, they all ask, "Where is Auntie Envy?" And no, this is like sometimes things, as you said, karma or whatever. It's not planned. It develops like this. And now she's her own personality. She has a character. She sits there in front of the residents, and you know you have to be nice to her. Otherwise, she's not carrying you around.
Yeah. So, is there a lot of understanding and such lovely give and take in between Germany and India in the last 10 years or so, Walter? I mean,
I
how
mean,
have relations changed? I mean, between the two countries?
to start with the cultural relations, I mean, like, of course, in Germany, everybody knew Gandhi and this peaceful revolution. And so this was a given in the last 50 years. But then I think it was more a cultural fascination, which especially people from my generation had, this kind of inclination towards India. You had a lot of scientists who came to India to study the Sanskrit, and this kind of old culture ties, which I don't know. This is a German fascination for India. For the culture, for the history, for the archaeology and buildings and these kind of things. And then with the hippie generation, with my generation, there came the aspect of yoga, of healthy food, and of music and meditation. This kind of spiritual overarching reality in this world. We in the West have mostly the things we see, and in India you have an overarching things which you're not seeing, which is the spirituality. And this had a lot of influence on my generation. So that's why many of us wanted to come to India. For me, it was a dream when I was 15, 16 years old. From then on, I said, I have to see India. I have to go there. So that's why I worked as taxi driver and truck driver to get the money and to see with my own eyes India. There's a book by Hermann Hesse on Siddhartha.
Mm.
And this, when I was still in school, I read it, and this influenced me a lot, this searching of the path of truth. This kind of experimenting and going to the rich and the poor and the sick, and it was fascinating. So this kind of exotic philosophic approaches were very fascinating. And then a whole generation did like I did. And then, of course, came later on more the strategic partnership and the economic ties and political ties, and so where we are at the moment. But I think a lot of this has also to do with culture. That's why I think if I put a lot of emphasis also on culture here, it's not because of nothing. It's because I feel like many Germans do when they think of India.
That's beautiful. And when it was, you say it was a dream to come to India since the age of 15. So when you first landed, what was the first thing that you saw, sought out, and experienced?
Of course, at the time, I came here 76. None of you were born at that time.
I was 1 year old.
You see, so I came here, but of course I came, and not from one day to the other. You have to travel overland from Germany, and it took me 6 months. So I went through Turkey, and of course, and then Iran, which had a king at that time, had the Shah at that time, and then Afghanistan, who had a king at that time, and then Pakistan, and down the Khyber Pass. So I spent already 6 months on the roads, hitchhiking, and so I was already weathered. And I must say, my perception of India was before that a bit naive, I guess, because I expected everyone under a banyan tree meditating. So, and then I arrived, I guess it was in Lahore, crossing the border, and then 76 in Lahore in a bus, very simple bus, dusty and filled with people and hot, and not driving nice air-conditioned cars. It's something. And then you stop on the road because for hours because there's a cow and nobody moves the cow, and then you wait there and you're sweating, and this is India in its reality. So I arrived with quite some a bit naive, a bit simplistic image of India, and then what you get then first is a kind of a shock when you see reality, because then it's like India is like a rose. You have all these spikes. You have to open all this, and this is smelly, and this is hot, and this is noisy, and not organized. But then you find the rose inside because it's there. But you have to open these leaves, and it's not so easy. And so it takes some time and some openness for India. So that's why at that time, of course, we all had. I spent 4 years traveling. So it's not like this time when you take a plane, fly in, and you spend a week in Agra and in Jaipur, and then you fly back. At that time, you really experienced the country. You stayed with people. You were here a month, there a month. So after some time adaptation, I went through these negative aspects, crowdiness, and sleep in the Salvation Army and these kind of things, and you get to the India which I love so much, which is the spiritual one, and all the beauty you have in the country.
And I just wanted to relate one documentary which I saw in the UK, Walter, where I was studying. And you had William Damprel, who's written a lot and who's an India lover, but he was still demolishing India based on his ideas of, I think you would have experienced it, of his commentary of the RSS. And how the RSS was compared to Germany of the past. I mean, these are perceptions that people have, probably largely wrong perceptions which have changed. But how does one accommodate new perceptions of a country that is, so diverse? And, there are India lovers who still find so many negative things. And there are people within India who have probably fueled this negative perception, especially in Europe. How does one change a perception of a country?
I guess as we humans, the countries are formed by humans, the governments and the people you see, they're human. And since humans are not perfect, no country is perfect. There's no paradise on this planet. There's no place where you think this is it and there is no negative aspect. So as much as in Germany you have negative aspects, you have also negative aspects in India. Because mankind, we are not perfect. So for me, the ideal India is, and my perception is, the country of variety of cultures, of tolerance, of coexistence, and of not minding what your neighbor is believing at, but you exist together because it's all mankind. It's this kind of softness and the non-violence, which is incorporated by Gandhi, but it comes out from here, and the fact that Hinduism or Hindus never occupied another country. So there are a lot of positive aspects, but then there are, of course, you see in newspapers, you see clashes and you see some intolerant accidents. So now I guess the fair way of treating is to not neglect this, but to put this into a context and see, okay, what's the real India? And that's one of my jobs as ambassador also, but also as someone who lives here, to be neutral and to come with a positive attitude. And even if there are things to be criticized, which are in India, you do it in a way which is not condemning the whole picture as such, because India is, as I said before, it's like right between the eyes. There's no sugarcoating. It's totally intense. The beauty is intense, which is the tolerance, the beauty of the openness of the people, the landscape, the architectural beauties, the music. This is just undescribable. But on the other side, you have the noise, you have the injustice, you have poverty, lack of water, and so there are other things which have to be improved. And so that's why I guess whoever makes a judgment, anyway, it's difficult for any foreigner to make a judgment on India because it's such a vast country, and I discover every day new things, and you have to be here 50 years or born here to really understand India, I guess, because it's a complex country.
What about the music? I read that you are interested in learning more about Indian classical music. So how does rock meet Indian classical music in a new collaboration?
I'm a fully trained musician, so I studied classical European music, Bach, and played in orchestras and operas. So I started off with that, and then, as many things in my life, I was not happy with just one thing. So I had to discover the jazz and the rock. So I ventured into rock. So then I became rock and jazz musician. But I was always open to other influences. Be it when I was in Latin America, salsa and song from Cuba, so this danceable music, or in Africa, African influences, rhythms. And in India, is music-wise pretty different from the rest of the world.
Mhm.
Be it the instruments, be it the harmonies, be it the way you structure your pieces of music, which are ragas, and can last 20 minutes. And for a normal European musician, this is a challenge. So you have to be prepared and you have to get into it. And it's not that I say, okay, I have now the technical skills to play a sitar. No, it's the way you enter the stage and you kiss the stage. You talk to your fellow musicians, the way you dress, the way you sit, the way you tune your instrument until you get into this mood. Now, this is a lot of philosophical attachment, which not everyone who comes here and said, okay, let's play this song. And if I go to New York today, I play with a group of musicians and I say, okay, you count on 1, 2, 3, and we start. In India, it's different. So you need patience, as in many things in India. You need patience and you need dedication and devotion to this. And that's what I'm saying. I'm very interested to work more closely with Indian classic musicians because I want to discover more of this world. I talked the other day with Rakesh Chaurasia, flute player, bansuri player, and he does the same. He's crossing over to Western, but then always comes back to Mumbai and to his family, and then they are totally classic Indian musicians. And here he has to explain what he has done in the West with his harmonies and these kind of things. So it's still something which is not totally fitting, like the Beatles brought in Ravi Shankar to play a sitar, but he played the sitar in a way, in a very westernized way, now to make the right combination, which is tasteful and which has a lot of respect to both sides, not using one influence just to make it more exotic in the other side. This is a challenge as musician, and on this I want to work. And there have been people like John McLaughlin and others, and Shakti, who work on this. It's a bit too early to say, but I'm a learner, as all Indian musicians are, and let's see what's coming out of it.
And so does being an artist help you give out-of-the-box solutions for diplomatic issues? I think artists have a very different way of looking at problems or issues.
I think maybe, if I would be a dancer, or if I would be a painter or a poet, it would be the same. It's just, it gives you a different angle. If you have a personality, life is such. Life is not limited to just earning your money, which I do with diplomacy. It is, you wake up and have your thoughts and you have your spirit and you have your soul. So you need to take care of all of these aspects. Now, if you, as a musician or an artist, you have a way of expressing yourself, which gives you, in the other profession here in the diplomacy, a lot of self-assurance, because I'm not just depending on diplomacy. I know the world is much broader and wider. Now, on the other hand, it gives me a better way to be in my diplomatic job, because I can more relate to people. That's why I was in the other day doing an interview and saying we need a kind of a new diplomacy in this 2020. I mean, actually, you need it already since years, and I do this since years wherever I am. A diplomacy which is not doing their things in behind high walls and doing these cocktails there, but go out, relate to people, create some sympathy. In your case, sympathy for Germany, that you say, okay, these Germans are pretty cool guys because they are listening and they are interested, whatever. On the other hand, I can tell Chancellor Merkel, okay, what is India like? You know, she was here a year ago, and in the car we were driving from the airport to the residence, and we had like half an hour. And I knew her before from her times, but she said, "Tell me, what's you feel now in India?" So you know, she was also interested. So if I'm an ambassador sitting in my cocktail parties, then I can just tell her what my other colleagues say. But I want to talk to the rickshaw puller. I want to talk to the nurse or to the Bollywood guy or whatever, and then you get a more complete picture. So that means whatever it is, be the artist or be the even a sportsman or whatever your vocation is important to be better in your other profession. If you are a one-track pony, it's a bit limiting.
Yeah, a lot. Now that you mentioned sports, a lot of us were fans of Michael Schumacher, and we're really, really very sad about what's been happening to him. But we're happy that his son is now coming into the circuit. And I read somewhere that he named his dog Shiva. So you know, that was like, yeah. So how's he doing? Okay,
Well, you know, it's not very clear because I guess the wife doesn't really let people see him in the house in Geneva, but they all say, they pray that he will be one day be possible that he is be seen in public again. That tells you something, but I don't know, it's a kind of a mystery, and only the very close family knows exactly how they are. And
yeah.
I saw when, you know, when people talk about him, they talk about him with highest respect, and it shows that he was one of the very, very great. I mean, he is one of the very great, and great that his son is continuing this. But about his health situation, I think we all can only pray.
What is India's presence in Germany itself now? I mean, in terms of not just, you know, very typical Indian restaurants, cuisine, or yoga centers, but is there a large Indian presence in terms of commerce and industry?
Yes, there are quite a number of companies there. There are quite a number of people who are married there, and students. We have. I just posted an article from the Hindustan Times, I guess, where they have said there are more than 25,000 Indian students in Germany, which is the highest number of all European countries, much more than in the UK, for example. You could imagine how well, you know, UK English speaking, but there are so many English classes in Germany where you can study. And I think people like it as you have free education there, and you have a tolerant surrounding. So you have a lot of Indian presence, apart from the restaurants and from the temples and from the yoga centers. So India has a very good connotation, as I said before, the landscapes, the beauty, the touristic values, the values of philosophy, of, you know, combining the body and soul and these kind of things. It's all there. You know, of course, there are some critical aspects about some clashes you see there, but people see at large. I think they see a country with 7,000 years of tradition. You know, ask where the rest of the world was 7,000 years ago. You know, so this is quite a history and quite a culture.